on the item via Gamut Meetings, 2 via email to public comment at ktjusd.k12.ca.us. 3 during the meeting via call-in. Please email dmigolina at ktjusd.k12.ca.us or leave a message at 530-625-05600, extension 1001, with your name and the number you will be calling in from to register. Method of choice shall be submitted no later than 12 noon on Wednesday, July 14th, 2021. Comment shall be limited to 400 words. Please format your email to have item number as a subject. Please 1 email per item. Multiple item comments in a large email will not be submitted. All received comments will be read, displayed during the board meeting if received on or before the time listed. Thank you. Okay, flag salute. Carrie, would you lead us in the flag salute?
Please follow me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Roll call. Trustee McLaughlin. Here. Trustee Myers.
Here.
Trustee Waddy.
Here.
Trustee George.
Here.
Trustee Colgrove. Here. Trustee Wow.
Here.
We
6 are
have,
present. We have a quorum.
we have a quorum. Adoption of the agenda. At a regular meeting, the board may take action upon an item of business not appearing on the posted agenda if, first, the board publicly identifies the item, and second, one or more of the following occurs. The board, by a majority vote of the full board, decides that an emergency as defined in Government Code Section 54956.5 exists, or upon a decision by a 2/3 vote of the board, or if less than 2/3 of the board members are present, a unanimous vote of those present, the board decides that there is a need to take immediate action and that the need or action came to the attention of the district after the agenda was posted, or the item was posted on the agenda of a prior meeting of the board occurring not more than 5 calendar days prior to the date of this meeting, and at the prior meeting, the item was continued to this meeting. Public comment on agenda items. We have one public comment, which we will take up at that action item. Okay. I entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. KTJUSD moves. Is there a second? Martha second. Discussion? All in favor, say, do I do roll call? Not if everybody's here. Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, unanimous adoption. The agenda is adopted. Action items. Our first action item is the selection of the provisional board member. What we will be doing is we will have both candidates step out. We'll have in a minute, and we will call you in individually for our interview. And then when we are finished, we'll call you both back in, and we will vote on selecting one of you for the trustee seat. We have a seat available up here because we will be seating whoever the candidate is the seat.
We'll just move it back.
We'll wrestle a table.
Yeah, we'll make it
Okay.
work.
That's right, we've been setting up for 6.
I just want to make sure we have.
Thank you.
So, okay. Who is going to go first? Let's see. And who is going to host, or I think Carmen is going to host. Okay, Here's our list of who we have. We have two candidates. One is Tom O'Gorman and the other is Dennis Bird, and they are both here. Okay, so I think alphabetical order. Let's go with Dennis Bird first. So Carmen, we have you and Tom step out, and Dennis, would you come up to our
Hot seat.
hot seat? Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, first I'd like to introduce you to the current board members. So each one want to introduce yourself?
I'm Martha McLaughlin from Orleans.
I'm Debbie Myers from the Beckman.
I'm Carrie White from Salyer.
I'm Laura Lee George, Hoopa.
Trustee.
And Rob Wild. Hello.
And so you are interviewing for the Willow Creek trustee
Yes.
position. Yes, thank you for applying. Okay, we have a set of interview questions, and let's just start off here. How about we just start and go around, start with Martha.
Okay. You ready, Dennis?
I'm ready.
So why are you interested in being a board member for KTJUSD?
Well, I've got a son coming into high school here, and I've always wanted to be a part of something here, but been too busy. I've got a crew that works for me. I'm not nearly that busy, so figured it's the perfect time to have some input.
Are you familiar with the school district budgets, especially pertaining to the LCAP?
I hear a lot about it, but I haven't really delved into it too much. Lori's, I guess, on the LCAP, so I've heard about it. But I'm anxious to get into it.
Can you ask questions or?
Yes, you can ask clarifying questions. You have one?
Yeah, so you said Lori is on the LCAP. What is that? That's your wife or your?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's my turn. There's much discussion surrounding trauma-informed care. What is your knowledge of and philosophy on trauma-informed care?
Not much. I don't have much knowledge of that at all. Never heard of that.
Just to let you know what it is.
That's what I would like to know.
Children and adults too have adverse childhood experiences, and as they add up, it causes trauma.
Sure.
And so there is a big movement, scientific movement that's now being and has been for a while brought down to implementation at the schools. So we do have a wellness center here. We do have Virgil Moorhead Jr. with I can't think of the name of his Two Feathers that are coming up and doing a lot of counseling, working with a lot of our students.
Mhm.
And if you have one or two, if you have over two adverse childhood experiences, then they start building up into a lot of issues. And what we're finding is that we have a tremendous amount of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, with a lot of our students. And so it really is, we're trying to implement the different practices to help alleviate all of that. So our students be a lot healthier.
That's a good thing.
Okay, so number 4, do you have former experience as a board member of a school district or any other agency?
No, but through my life, I've ran crews of large amounts of people. I've been in my contracting trade for 40 years now. And I've ran multi-million-dollar projects, so I deal with a lot of people, in a daytime. So, a board member, no, I've never been a board member. But, like I said, it's time for me to get involved,
What do you know about the disclosure of confidential information from closed session?
We don't disclose anything.
Thank you. I'm sure that you've probably experienced a lot of that with Lori being
I do.
tribal council.
I do, yeah. I always ask what the end of the story is, and she'll never tell me.
Okay, number 6, are you willing to attend training on how to be an effective board member?
Absolutely.
Sorry. So what personal attributes do you have that will help the board select you as the provisional appointee to represent Willow Creek area?
Budgeting and stuff like that. I'm a problem solver. Of course, you have to be if you want to be a superintendent on any big construction site. So those I think are probably my main attributes that I have to offer.
What do you think you can do to accomplish the vision, mission, and goals of this district?
Listen and, learn about this, what you guys are doing here, and then just give my input, from where I stand in the district.
Is there anything you would like to add or tell us about yourself?
Not really, I pretty much told you about what I do,
Can you ask questions?
If we ask a question, we have to ask it of both candidates. So if you have one, we have to ask it of me, unless it is a clarifying question.
Well, so it has to do with his letter that he submitted, or something that he had mentioned in there. I just wanted to-
That could be a clarifying. So you had a question or?
Yeah, so in his letter, he says that he can bring board insight into the needs of the children and the families. And I just kind of wanted to ask him what he felt like the needs, the needs that the children, I'm going to use his words here so that it's not deflecting or going, what insight that he could bring to us in this discussion about the needs of the children here within this community.
Within that entire district?
Yeah.
Well, I would like to see that, some of this stuff, the building that you guys need built out here, I'd like to see that done. I think that would really help the kids. I think they're getting really cheated by not having that. A lot of these people are not college people, they're more trades people. Now, I've noticed in the last 10 years that there's no young people getting in our trades. And it's good, it's running out. Nobody's interested in it. And one of the main reasons, is because there's no facility here to get them interested. I'd like to see that done. I really would. Because it gives all the ones that are not scholars a chance to get into something that they may really excel at.
We could just add that too. Is there anything you would like to add or tell us
Right.
about yourself? You can add it to that.
Okay. Any questions for us?
No, not really. I'm just anxious to learn how this all works and, I'm more than willing to put in the time, whatever it takes to make sure that happens. I think with a group of intelligent people, we can make things happen. It's not one-sided when there's this many people in the room. I'm sure there's opinions, and there's opinions that people don't, all of us won't agree on. But we have to do our best, level best, to work through it and make sure that we come up with the best answer for the kids.
Thank you, then. I don't think we don't have any more questions, and we'll have an answer.
So I gotta
This
sit outside now.
No, you can go outside. I think, yeah. you can go
So
outside.
we'll know tonight on this.
Yes,
And you'll get
And-
seated at this meeting.
somewhat, yes.
Okay.
Canada will get seated, so don't run away yet.
And I think Carmi is hosting, right?
Yes, Carmi, I think maybe Dana can
Okay,
show you where we need to go.
thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, 20 minutes before we call.
I think that there's interviewing each and then having discussion afterward.
Okay, do you want him to come on down then? Tom?
Yes,
So, want to have discussion on him after we interview Tom.
let's do discussion on both after we interview. And don't forget, we are still live during our discussions.
Just because we have interview each candidate and then discussion and selection. It's just-
Are we live right now?
So my notes and my thoughts, I should just write on the back of this.
Sure.
So I don't forget.
So I have a
Yep,
seat.
you get the hot seat. We have a set of questions here. Tom. We will be going around the table asking, starting with Martha. And then after we interview you, then we'll have you step out. We will be having a discussion afterwards, and then we'll call back in and have a vote on who was selected and who will seat them. So, okay, first things first, we have questions. So are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, Martha.
Why are you interested in being a board member for KTJUSD?
I believe in the importance of schools for our community. And I support the concept of a school board. I support the concept that the general public should have control over the school system. There are some people, my dear sister, a school teacher, who argues that professionals should run the school system, but I actually think that the school board is a good way to do it. I support the fact that the school board should hire professionals, should hire a superintendent to run, but I do believe that the general public should be able to direct the goal and the vision of the school system. And I've had a lot of experience on boards. I believe in boards. Perhaps it's the farmer in me, but I'm willing to take a long range vision and plod along.
So are you familiar with the school district budgets, especially pertaining to the LCAP?
I have been on the school board before, 2 episodes, and I am familiar with the school district budget. I am familiar with the LCAP somewhat because of my involvement before. I do understand that there have been some changes in the last year or so that I haven't been on the school district. I do appreciate that the LCAP process can be a challenge for a small school or a small school district, because big school districts might have a big enough money to designate somebody to work on the LCAP, possibly even year round. And so a smaller school district might not be able to do that, but I do understand that that can be part of an LCAP application that a school district can include in their LCAP, the possibility of creating some of the LCAP budget for. And I also understand that a diverse and geographically spread out district can have a bigger challenge with an LCAP than a smaller or more condensed school. So I understand that the LCAP can be a difficult challenge for a district like ours.
There is much discussion surrounding trauma-informed care. What is your knowledge of and philosophy on trauma-informed care?
It is my understanding that that school employees, school teachers, and staff and school board members should be aware that a student could have had something happen, something traumatic in their life, could have had several things traumatic in their lives, and that it's worth appreciating them, paying attention to them, and doing things that don't push those buttons, especially in an escalating situation. That it's important that the teachers and the staff of the whole school be trained so that if they get the feeling that something in the student's past is emotional, and they feel that the situation is escalating, then with some good training, there are things that can be done to try to calm the situation.
Okay, number 4, do you have former experience as a board member of a school district or any other agency?
I have had 2 short stays on this school board in the past, and yes, I have been on the board of directors of the Willow Creek Services District, which is a smaller organization than this, but it is a couple of $1 million budget. And I was on that board of directors for many years, for 30 years.
Laura?
What do you know about the disclosure of confidential information from closed session?
I know that personnel issues, lawsuit issues that are discussed in closed session that pertain to the reason for being in closed session are confidential. I do know from experience that that a board member can't use a closed session to say things that don't pertain. So, for example, if we're in a closed session and that pertains to a lawsuit, a school board member can't use that opportunity to say things unrelated to the lawsuit in hopes of sharing that information with fellow board members and not having it be known that they said it. So confidential information that pertains to the reason why one is in closed session is confidential. And they usually have to do with personnel issues, student issues, or lawsuit issues. I do know that, for example, if there's a lawsuit involved, then the nature of the lawsuit, the topic of the lawsuit is open session. That can be discussed, but not the details. And also it would have to do with purchasing property if a school board were to go into closed session to discuss buying a piece of property, that the school district is in discussion with buying a piece of property is open session. That's public information. But the details of the negotiations, how a school district might want to approach the discussion with the seller, that's a confidential piece. So there's some shades in there, but there are some things that are definitely confidential.
Are you willing to attend training on how to be an effective board member?
Yes, I am. I like training.
What personal attributes do you have that will help the board select you as the provisional appointee to represent the Willow Creek area?
I have a lot of experience in boards, and I believe in the board process. I believe that, for example, this school district will be better if each of 7 board members brings their qualities, and if each of the board members accepts that some of the other board members might have strengths that they don't have. So it's a collaborative effort, and we need to work together. And as I said earlier, I do believe that you have to be patient to be a farmer. And so I am willing to be patient. I do think of a school district somewhat as an ocean liner, that the role of one board member is to talk to the other board members, maybe nudge a little bit this way or a little bit that way, but I don't believe in making sharp turns that cause casualties, that cause somebody to fall overboard.
Did you just ask that or me?
I did.
Me?
Yeah.
What do you think you can do to accomplish the vision, mission, and goals of the district?
Most importantly, it would be to work cooperatively with the rest of the school board, because it is a group project. The 7 school board members do have to work together. The school board tries to hire the best superintendent they can. The school board tries to keep the district out of lawsuits, and if a lawsuit is engaged, they try to settle it fairly and reasonably. The school board tries to be part of hiring the best team possible. So I would just be one of 7.
Is there anything you would like to add or tell us about yourself?
I would like to add that I believe in the importance of technology, that I use technology every single day, and the school district has been engaged in purchasing technology and using the technology lately. I also believe that technology is a tool, that life is the goal, and I would like to try to work with the school district and try to encourage the school district to also pursue life, whether it be raising fish in classrooms or oak trees in the ground. I do believe that we should balance our budget, our technology budget, in a way that allows us to have more life in the schools.
KTJUSD, you have one question? The one you asked.
And I'm trying to remember how I worded that.
You wrote
Pretty
it down,
much
Carrie?
turned out to be number 9 anyway.
Yeah, so what did you write down, Carrie? Did you write it down?
No.
What, give me a second. So what would you say insight you could bring to the board about the children in this community? What insight can you bring to us about the students within our district? Students and families.
Well, I didn't grow up around here in the, I spent most of my youth in, down further south in the suburbs, but I was, in fact, born here. The first place that I lived was in Hoopa on Loop Road. And then I moved back when I was 21. Both of our daughters went through our school system. So I have a good sense of the range of students in our district. I have a good sense of the variety of students in our district. And I'm a businessman by the side of the road, so I see a lot of those same students going through my business. So our district is diverse. That can make challenges, but it also is, I believe, our strengths. And I do have 2 grandchildren on coming up through the school system. So I'm interested in being a school board member that can help make the school district as good as I can for my grandchildren.
Do you have any questions for us?
Nope. No, I didn't come prepared to ask you guys a question. I did have a meeting with your superintendent just a couple of days ago when I to ask some general pictures about the status of the school district, just so that I wouldn't be terribly embarrassed if you asked me a question I didn't know anything about. But I do have a feeling that there's excitement about getting back to school. I have a feeling that there's pride that there was no transmission of COVID that we know of anyway in our school system. So congratulations to all of you and to your nurse and to your teachers, and keep up the good work, because we do want kids to get back to school as soon as possible, but we do want to do it as safely as possible.
Okay. Well, I think that's all of our questions, and what we will be doing is we'll be having you step out. We will be discussing our interviews, and then we'll call both of you back in. We'll have our vote in public, and we will seat the candidate at that point. So don't run away.
Okay. Thank you.
I just have one thing I wanted to let the board know that I did meet with both of the candidates. So Tom's the only one that mentioned it, but I did meet with both. I've scheduled appointments just to go over the governance handbook, the calendar, just to get them familiar with some level of the commitment that's involved. So just thinking that happened both.
On our interview sheets here, we have a score, but I don't know what the range is.
Right there on the top. Way up on the top.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I know I did the same thing, and then I was like, oh, there it is.
Okay. So let's, we're going to take some time here for you to do your analysis of the scoring sheets. And so when we're ready, let's raise your hand when you're ready, and then we'll go from there.
What do you think, Martha? If you're sitting there fidgeting, you must be thinking something.
Well, I'm already ready.
Oh, I'm gonna fill out the page after the front page.
Oh, okay. I did that.
I didn't do that yet.
And then we have the letter. Ice maker.
Oh, you're Jennifer, when you first button on the ice maker. It jumps and
Be very ready.
Is that it right there?
Yes.
Yes.
They're nice over there, but you don't have to mind the It's a fancy one. It's just such a nice. I'll start. You guys are ready to talk about it.
I'm not.
Okay, anyway. That's the worst thing about it is it dumps the whole thing in there, Martha. So you have to keep getting more cups over there. It's just like,
It's the
So, yeah.
sorcerer's apprentice over there.
So Carrie, we'll continue to broadcast out until we go into closed session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm ready. Any discussion or everyone else? Anyone else still waiting?
You ready, Martha? You can go first since you're first on.
What do I think?
Whatever, if you have something to say, I think, huh? We're just discussing it.
Do you have any discussion that you have of either candidate, or would you're prepared to vote? Is everyone prepared to vote? We could go. Okay, well then let's bring the candidates in. I don't see any discussion.
Do we vote in front of them?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay. And since we're all here, we don't have to do roll call. So what I will do is have you raise your hand to vote. I'll say the name and then you raise your hand. So that, or do you want me to do individually?
It doesn't matter.
seems kind of sad for the guy that loses.
What's that? Or we could, the other, what we could do is go and each of you state who your first candidate is. And then if we have a quorum, a majority that way, then that's the candidate.
No, I was like, oh, it's an odd number. It's most of the time voting is.
Right.
So at that point, I suppose we would go back to the board having a discussion. I don't get to break the ties, so.
No. Well, let's just see what happens.
Okay.
We'll punt at that point.
Yeah.
I'll look back on Attorney McNally's notes and see if there's.
Yeah,
anything
you
that
can bring
happens.
everyone back in.
Haven't we always had that ice maker?
No, what?
Oh,
Haven't we had what?
if we always had that ice maker,
Oh, that's a new noisy thing.
it's just so.
Is Dennis still up?
I think he'll be in a minute.
Okay.
I was standing outside, but I think he was
I see.
in the waiting room.
I will do a roll call. We'll go around and state your
Okay.
candidate. Okay, well, we're all back in here, so, yeah, so we did have, one letter that came in, regarding our action item, and, dear school board member, on behalf of the Hoopa Valley Tribe, I recommend that you appoint Mr. Dennis Bird as a provisional board member. As you know, our district is made up of a large number of Native American students, and we have lacked educational opportunities in vocational training for many years. Mr. Boyd is a member of a federally recognized tribe who has close connections to the local Native community, as well as 20 years experience as general contractor. I believe these factors will allow Mr. Bird to serve our Native students and the community at large very well. Mr. Bird is somebody with fresh ideas who can bring about change. We are asking that you appoint somebody who we believe is the best candidate to represent the majority of our children. In closing, I would like to express my support for the work of the KTJUSD going forward. And I am respectfully requesting a face-to-face meeting with you, our education department, and our tribal council during the second week of August. I believe wholeheartedly that it is in the best interest of our students that we work together. So I would like to open up the lines of communication with you so that we can strengthen efforts to accomplish our shared goals. Please do not hesitate to contact me, phone number, email. Thank you, Joe Davis, Chairman, Hoopa Valley Tribe. Now, I'm wondering if the chairman had knew who all of our applicants were, or whether this should have been just a recommendation.
Yeah, not to my knowledge, we didn't let it out.
It wasn't published.
So, okay, so, okay.
Thank you.
But the position was posted in the newspaper.
Yeah, the
It
position
was
was
posted.
advertised, and just in terms of
But the,
when we received.
Yeah.
but the
letters
names of
interest.
all applicants were not public. Okay, we're prepared to vote. So Dana, I will have you do a roll call, and each board member will state their first choice candidate.
Okay, roll call vote. Rob? Trustee Rob, Rob?
Well, I think both of them would make very good candidates. My vote would be for Tom, actually, mainly because of the experience, and I work with him quite a lot. And mainly he just understands the process really well.
Trustee Colgrove?
I would have to consider what was in the best interest of the Native students within the district. And since we have a large number of Native students, I would have to support Dennis Bird for the trustee.
President George?
Yes, I too thought both candidates were very strong candidates for different reasons. And I would have to go with Tom because of his experience and his knowledge of the various topics of the challenges and responsibilities of the board.
Trustee Waddy?
I thought both candidates were good choices, but also for different reasons. I'm gonna go with Tom O'Gorman because of his experience and because I've seen that, you know, whether or not it's Native American students or another tribe, another race or whatever. I don't think that, I think that he considers as much as he can about the situations and doesn't bring that whole thing into it. He brings into it the knowledge that he has, and he's done very well for us in the past. So I would like to go with his experience.
Trustee Meyer?
And my vote is for Dennis Berg. I think they both, they scored almost equal. I know that Tom is a stronger interviewer because he's been here before and he has the knowledge and experience, but I really like to see some of the new ideas come in with Dennis, and so I'm supportive of Dennis.
McLaughlin?
Tom O'Gorman. Or any of the same reasons as anybody else. I appreciate that.
Okay, we have 4 for Tom and 2 for Dennis.
Okay, 4 is a quorum, so Tom will be seated. And Dennis, I would like to thank you for applying, and I really am interested in your contracting experience. And maybe as a board, we may be able to call on you for your expertise in that area at
Certainly.
some point. We do have some things coming up that really interested in. We need help in that area, so,
Absolutely.
okay. And so, thank you.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
I didn't get to say that I think that both candidates were did well, so I wanted to say that before you put it out there.
It's a good problem.
Everybody
to
else
have.
said it, and I thought,
Okay, so Tom, will you come up and we will have the superintendent read you the oath.
Read you your rights.
Do you have?
Oh, I think it will read you your rights.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I need a moment because Lorelei likes to clear everything off of her desk.
Yep.
And I handed it back to you, Dana, so just a moment to get through. I don't know where you're at.
I lied to you.
Okay.
Mom, we should get that to her.
So. Okay. I, Tom O'Gorman,
I, Tom O'Gorman,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Thank you. And I'm going to sign my part, and then we'll hand this over to Dana and have you finish up, and then I will clean up and move off of this.
We will have you sit over
Yeah.
here, Tom.
Yeah, thank you.
You don't get the hot seat forever.
I'll move over there. Do this.
Who wants to?
Pardon? I was gonna sit there and do my super report, and then I'll just,
Okay.
and then I'll sit over to the side next to Martha.
Okay.
Or next to Robert. Thanks. Consent agenda.
Thank you.
I don't have any. Like for you, but.
I didn't get to listen to Tom's on that yet.
Oh, yeah. Welcome.
We will,
Yeah, we
we'll continue with our agenda. Are we still on?
Oh, please ask. I don't know what just happened. Maybe when I moved things.
I still have you guys.
Okay,
Yeah,
All
we
right.
have audio and video.
great.
Okay,
Sit over
so
here.
we will, next thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with corrections to the minutes as turned in.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the changes.
Okay, Deborah moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Rob seconds. And on the board, on the minutes, there were some awkward sentences and typos, and so those are the types of corrections, not anything substantive. So no discussion on consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. Next is the superintendent's report.
I don't have a written report. I'm going to give you just a verbal update, and then we'll have some materials that we'll send out to the board. So I want to let you know that the California Department of Public Health updated its guidance for kindergarten through 12th grades. We were waiting because there were, things were moving forward in the private sector, and we didn't have updated guidance for the K-12 sector. So the big takeaways from the CDPH is that there's a recommendation to continue the use of masks in classrooms with both adults and children, summer school, and then starting again in the fall, because children are generally, an unvaccinated group. Basically, the looking at the different mechanisms to reduce the transmission of COVID, as masking is what is really being focused on, and removing the physical distancing requirements if the masking is continued to be implemented faithfully, which I think we have done a really good job at. And the masking requirements for, again, adults and children who are together indoors. And so that masking requirement does not apply to outdoors. We get regular updates from the tribal health, and their recommendations are a little bit different. So we still have cases. I still get daily reports from Will Hostler. There were 3 new cases today in Hoopa. So in terms of this, everything's back to normal. It certainly is not. And it's really good to have that information continuously there. So I think the science has just kind of led to the mask is the most effective way, but we continue with other mechanisms for both vaccinated and unvaccinated folks. So would be happy to send a copy of that to any of you that would like it. It's not extremely long, but it was the clearest. We finally got it. There was just an absence of some information in terms of some of the requirements. So it's 7 pages. So I can shall we send that out to everybody?
Can I just ask a question? When you said we're still getting new cases, has it been investigated as to whether or not these new cases are the new variant or the same
I do not know. I just get the numbers of new cases and active cases. I know and so I don't know. And I know that there are people that are vaccinated that have tested positive, not necessarily in Hoopa, but just,
Yes,
so we know that
there
it's,
have been some,
Do we,
in fact, there's at least 3 cases right now, and on Facebook, they said they have been fully
Mhm.
vaccinated and they do have
children?
the COVID. So I'm not sure if it's the Delta variant, but I understand that's the one that is most prevalent in Humboldt County right now.
So before our nurse was receiving information about children who were COVID positive, is she still receiving that information and is she still working that?
yeah,
caseload?
not the nurse, but it's going through the school district, and we work with public health and come out. So if we have any for the contact tracing.
So she's our school nurse is no longer following those COVID cases?
She probably is, but she doesn't, she's an 10-month employee, so,
Oh.
yeah. So we
Okay.
connected the summer school principal with county public health. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So
So,
it was my
so it's still
Okay.
the process is still there.
But what I'm asking is that previously the district knew if we had children that were positive.
Mhm.
Does the district
Yeah.
still know that
Yes.
we have children that are positive?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah, and I think that, it's another layer of protection, in terms of the contact tracing and informing people. So yeah, that's another really important part.
So do we know how many of the current cases are children?
I do not know that, me personally, because I'm not doing the contact tracing, so.
But they won't be in the summer school.
Right.
Okay.
And there's still the same protocols for, the number of days of quarantine and, but I can send this out to you, in terms of moving forward. I think that it is really important that we continue to, that the new normal includes the masking. And I just, me personally, when I go into stores, I'm always wearing a mask. I'm surprised that it's, the mask mandate was lifted and lots of people just immediately changed that behavior. I think because I work in the school system, I'm going to continue to be probably more cautious. But yeah, I'll send that out to you all. What we are really trying to do is figure out what we have had discussions about is how to get clear and concise information to families so that they understand that the protocols, we don't want families sending their kids back to school in the fall and be surprised about the masking. So I know that Laura Lee is a big proponent of the communication piece. And so we've had discussions about how, like a 1-page summary that just says, here are the expectations, here are the requirements. I'm going to go into a little bit that relates to if there are students that can't fulfill that requirement, including masking when I get into some of the budget stuff. So
that would be good in the weekly Two Rivers school information.
And I've talked to some principals too about some, just doing like a 30 seconds, like TikTok style, 30 seconds, just to say, here's how things will be. I mean, if we were able to do it this spring successfully with so many more requirements, I think we'll really be able to be successful in the fall. And the whole idea of the small cohorts that's kind of that part. But the masking is what has to be really vigilant about. My other, related to the health and safety, I've gone to a couple of workshops. Things are moving. It's like a tidal wave of new legislation with the new budget enactment. So we have a budget. Hooray. There's still one piece that is unresolved, and that has to do with the rates for the unemployment insurance. So things have just bounced all over the place. That is an unresolved issue. The governor has until July 19th to take action. If the governor takes no action, the unemployment insurance rate will remain at 0.5. We thought it was going to be 1.23. So we're just waiting for that last piece so we can take a breath and make some plans. And so there has been a number of changes to the rates. So one of the things that has come out with legislation is that schools, districts, this was a surprise as of yesterday, will be required to offer independent study to students. And the legislature is not allowing distance learning, but they are requiring independent study. So that is something that is a mechanism that schools have used for a long time. When a family has a planned absence, they can say, hey, we're going to be gone for 2 weeks. Can you please give us 10 days of independent study? So now we will be required to provide that, let families know what their options are. So I will be bringing a discussion to board. You know, it was kind of just sprung on us in terms of how we want to handle that. If we want to, you know, what our options will be. Do we want to employ an independent study teacher? Do we want to, we can contract with the County Office of Education and kind of not do it? I think we could have a really good opportunity for our school. That would be my personal
So my
recommendation.
understanding is we have to have independent study, but not through technology.
It can be through technology, but we're not calling it distance learning. So we have to, rather than, this year we had all this flexibility where kids could just be on distance learning. Independent study requires the master agreements.
Mhm.
It requires a different way of tracking attendance. There is some requirements for if a student misses 3 days, that then we have to get them prepared to go back to in-person and suspend their independent study. So what that will, 3 days of assignment. So it's kind of still being cooked. But we will have to look at our board policies about independent study. So, and there was a little bit of a, so much for those of you who thought you would take a little vacation in the summer, because now we need to address board policies and our forms and just decide how we're going to deliver that service. So now I saw this as a footnote, and I'm really hoping it is true, that independent study can now be offered for a shorter period of time. I think one of the flaws in the past was that it had to be 5-day minimum, and it looks like it's going to be a 3-day minimum, but in the presentations that I saw, it was just there as a kind of a sideline. So I have some questions in to school services to just get some finalization.
Was there a maximum also?
No, it could be somebody, it could be it's basically providing families and children an opportunity for full schooling experience, but not having to actually attend in person if they're a vulnerable population, or if there's medical reasons.
Yeah, there was a lot of our attendance problems sprang from that minimum of 5 days.
Yes, yeah.
Because we had kids that the state didn't recognize that if they were snowed in,
Mhm.
they couldn't make it to school.
Mhm.
We couldn't do independent study because they were only snowed in for 3 days.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of hot off the press. So that's about all I know there, but we started to look at, we will definitely have to bring our board policies back. I am sure CSBA will have something to say about this in terms of recommendations of policies that offer good mechanisms and there are some options. We can do a waiver. We don't have to do it. The law will be, we have to do it, but then there's waivers, so we don't have to do it. I think that it really could serve our kids to have that, and really build up that program. There's also legislation on universal TK. So transitional kindergarten is a fairly new concept. It was brought in by Governor Brown to allow kindergarten access to 4-year-old students. They're going to, over the next, I think it's up and through 2027, continue to change the date at which a student can enroll in TK. That in and of itself sounds like a great idea, except for preschools are really good at serving 4-year-olds and elementary schools are, it's kind of new to us. So the good news is that the legislature is providing funding to increase teacher training, because TK teachers have to have early childhood units, which, there's few. We have one in the district. So in terms of expanding our TK, both across more schools, and then it will serve younger students. And then the other part regarding the budget, there is a lot of money, is the good news. So there's a lot more money than the governor had thought. The revenues, particularly for personal income tax, that is what has continued to be higher than anybody had thought. So, and most of that revenue is generated from very, very wealthy people. So very, very wealthy people did extremely well over the past year. And it generated a lot of personal income tax revenue for the state, which the governor and the legislature have committed a lot of it to schools. Most of the money is one-time money. One time doesn't mean just 1 year. It could be one-time money over 2 years, but a lot of it is one time. And most of the new money is categorical. So we're kind of going, for those of you who are school board members before LCFF or teachers, you'll remember where funding was given for a specific purpose. And the governor doesn't want to call it categorical. It sure feels like categorical. The TK money is for TK. The independent study or in-person learning is for, they're all very specific. So it is not a lot of money that has been flooded into our unrestricted funding. The good news is the 5.07 super or mega COLA, which was to make up for last year's absence of a COLA, was included. For us, in terms of money, that equates to almost $400,000 increase. So it's called a mega COLA, but it actually is generating about $400,000 into our unrestricted funds. And so we have some additional revenues to pay for our increased expenses. There's also an increase to what's called our concentration grant, but it's a much smaller amount, but the purpose is to decrease this adult student ratio. So what the board approved a music teacher. We we will find the money. Well, there's some money for that. So it's to increase staffing ratios. And we actually have to provide a report that says, okay, last year, what was your student to teacher ratio? I think it actually includes classified and certificated. What's the student to adult ratio last year? And if we're using that money, we need to demonstrate that we have modified that ratio by providing more adults. So I have a budget that I have a summary of, some of the things that I have, like the conference I went to this morning. It's huge. It was 3 hours. A lot of good news. We have a lot of reports that we will have to write to secure the funding. I kind of had the happy face, sad face because and Dana said, we better get this on the calendar. Everything comes with a string. There is no new discretionary money where we just get to do, kind of whatever we want with it.
So with the TK funding and the new requirements, is that going to be ongoing funding or do we know? And then some of these others, like the ones that feel like categoricals, any indication those are going to be continued?
Not most of them do not indicate that they're continued. I think the TK is through implementation, but that's not long term, but it's longer term. So it's allowing schools to have money to provide training for teachers or incentives, because that's it's a hard grade to teach, and we don't get trained as as multiple subjects teachers. So most of the categoricals are one time.
This doesn't really, we can't do anything about this, but why don't they take that money and infuse it into the Head Start programs so that there's not that gap for those 4.5-year-olds?
There have been some committed funds to early childhood, yes.
Okay, because it just seemed, I know that the TK, that the concept was to fill that gap, but it would have made more sense to leave K-8 education in culture. I don't know. That's just.
Yeah. So I think that's the governor's. I think the governor's position has been really preschool, which, as a K-12 school district, we're like, wait, what about us? But so I think it's kind of an investment. I think that even if it's the one-time money, it will pay off because it will employ people. But there's something that we've spoken to today, and I can find out more about that. They want parents to have options. They do not want to make it so that we're diverting all 4-year-olds to elementary schools. Yeah. Because I think that you're right, Head Start preschool, they're really good at their jobs of serving that
they
age
are
of
really
kids.
good.
Yes.
And it's in a multi-graded school, you have TKK in one.
mhm.
I mean, you really have, it's really hard for teachers to, because TK is, they're still pretty far behind. You know, the kindergarten. Anyway.
So we'll try to do some, well, we will do some budget summaries and be able to do a budget presentation, but because it was just signed, it was kind of like the latest. I was surprised that school services was able to pull their conference together this soon, you know, they must have people burning the midnight oil because it all just kind of came in. And again, I said, there's that last piece, which is significant because the difference between 1.23% for unemployment insurance and 0.5 is, well, I don't know what the math, I don't know what the actual dollar amount would be for us, but we were gasping when we thought it was going to go up that much. So even as it stands now, it's 10 times what it was last year. So. Do you have health and safety or budget or legislation questions that I want me to find out about? I don't know what I can. I'll find out about the TK, universal
Well, I was just,
TK.
I was just, in some of the emails that I received, the things was saying that like, we got rid of categoricals, but now they're coming back, and how are we going to keep them going, sustain them? And so that's kind of interesting. What can we use the money for without ongoing expenses if they're not going to keep the money flowing?
Right.
That sort of thing.
It's kind of like with a lot of the COVID money where we need to say, okay, for this period of time, we can invest and have kind of a sunsetting looking forward to that. Because, you know, the legislature and the governor have an interest in being reelected or not being recalled. So they package things in ways that, you know, so they don't, they're doing a lot of the one-time money because then they're saying this is just one time. If they were to put it into ongoing and then having to reduce it later, it's not politically favorable. And there were a number of cartoons in the presentation that addressed, there was like a Gavin Newsom with like a Wheel of Fortune, and it was about categoricals, and it was the same thing. It's like they went away, but this is not, you know, LCFF is not Newsom's baby. It was, you know, Jerry Brown's baby. So it's still there, but there's all of these add-ons, and I think it is because the economy is so volatile. And I think that that's smart. The legislature's recognizing that, you know, like millionaires are multimillionaires. Billionaires are, I don't know what comes after that. So that's where we generated all of this new income tax money, but it could be fleeting. So I think we're going to be, we have good amount of money to do some of our work. And then, so my last piece that has to do with money is that we met again with OPSC. We'll have a financial plan drafted. They've been very accommodating. So this is specifically in regards to the 2016 certificate of participation, which is kind of our roadblock towards moving forward with our iTech building. It's also our roadblock toward having a predictable, sustainable budget, because we continue to have that elephant in the room, which now we're talking about it. So we actually did have a meeting with OKC again today. They do not want to put a deadline as to when we have to have the COP paid off, but when the time comes when all of our facilities things are closing out, again, I want to remind the board, any remaining balance, they will charge us that amount. So because they're saying that was bridge financing, and if you still have a debt, then you obviously had a way to finance. So basically, we're looking at $7 million. We have they want us to be really aggressive with paying that back. I asked Barbara, I said, so if we have a remaining balance in the COP, and then we have to enter into this repayment to the state, can we reduce that repayment to the state? She said, no, once we close out our construction projects, whatever is remaining, that will be the same amount that we will have to repay to OPSC. So that's part of our budget information that we will give to you in terms of how we can create some flexibility in the general fund to aggressively pay down the COP, because if we do not take that position, we will have to pay back double, basically. So, but they've been very, you know, they are ready to give us some of the appeals money back once we have some resolutions. So we will bring the board some proposals for resolutions. Carmi Hustler, do you have anything you wanted to add to that, or did I capture?
I think you summed it all up. I don't have anything else to add.
We did have the meeting with Shin. Shin Green would like to come and do a presentation to the board at the August meeting to give an update. It's a lot to take in. It's, you know, it is not a simple issue with the Office of Public School construction, but they have, you know, we have the two big issues: paying off the 2016 COP, moving forward with the iTech building. They are related. And so once we have a plan for how we will have the COP paid off, they will start releasing some of our appeals money. We did talk to them about some of the extra money that may free up some of the general fund money. Like there are some increases to special education funding, which for us just means we will encroach into the general fund less. There's money for cafeteria, which means we will encroach into the general fund less. So that's another, you know, we don't have the dollar amounts, but once we get that, then we can say, okay, this new funding for special education and which should be ongoing, and for child nutrition will free up X amount of dollars. And I'll make some recommendations to the board. I can just tell you now, I'd say everything that we can commit to paying down the COP
Now, the
frees us
appeals,
from the ball and chain.
when you say they will release the appeals funding, what exactly is that and the amount?
So with all of the construction that happened in the 5 years of chaos here, there were some appeals that the district made to the Office of Public School Construction saying, hey, you know, you gave us $4 for this project. I shouldn't like spread it down, $4, and it cost us $5. And that there was not a calibration of the actual cost of construction. And so then through that appeal, the state is recognizing that we were underfunded for some of the projects. It's about $1.2 million. But it's kind of exciting because it is the look forward towards the iTech building. And yesterday, the architect came up and looked at the site. There's some discussions about the footprint, but it was kind of the first look at the site. And Carmi and Missy and Alexis and
Mr. Johnson.
and Mr. Brad Johnson, our CTE teacher, on the site. So it has there is some movement there. Yeah. It's thinking next year we'll be in a really different position with our CTE program.
We'll chisel away at that 7 million one way or another here, and we have to.
We really do. I mean, we are really without some of the one-time funding. I mean, that can offset. Some of it is specific, like do these new things, and some of it is offsetting, especially with COVID money, offsetting some of the expenses, because so many of us spent so many of our hours and days dealing with COVID related issues that we can take some of the ESSER funding and the one-time funding and basically pay for some salaries through that, which will free up the general fund.
So is that it?
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
thank you.
Information items in our packets. We have an updated calendar 2021 with trainings. I thank you. It's on page 46 of our packet. We have trainings on August 3rd, and there is an online training that we need to finish on sexual harassment individually before August 3rd. So any other comments or anything on the information item calendar?
So is this, it says updated calendar with trainings, and then there's a link, but we're not able to link it with this. So is there a hard copy?
There's this,
Okay. I don't know where-
page
Oh, it's on the
46.
backside. Okay, that's why I was looking and going, where's the rest of it? Okay, it's on the backside.
Yes.
And then with the online portion of the sexual harassment prevention, I believe Nina sent out
Password.
okay.
Yeah, we would have to send those on to them.
And it went on out to all
Yeah.
of you. So in your KT email, there's a link and we'll get you an account as well, Tom, so that you can do the online portion, and then Carrie McNally will do the question and answer and kind of put it into context with other board responsibilities. And when we planned it, she thought that would be good if everybody had a little bit of the background first.
Okay. I started doing this sexual harassment training.
Mhm.
And I had a question, maybe some other people that have already done it or have started doing it can tell me the answers to that. Once you go through a section, it says, okay, you're finished, and it checks it off. It also says at the end, you're having a test. And it goes through these sections fairly quickly, so quickly that I'm trying to take notes and not keeping up with it, okay? And I would like to take notes, but it's pretty quick. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe I'll go back. Has anybody gone back to any of those sections? No, not yet. Has anybody started?
I did try to get on the training for. Yeah, I did, and I couldn't get mine to open up, so I have to get some help with that.
Okay, I got mine to open up and you have to have a password.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and it's very strange. You look at it and you're thinking, okay, there's nothing there. When you first go to do it, it looks like a blank
Okay,
Blank
that's where I.
thing right there. And you're like, isn't there anything for me to click on to get the video started? No, you just move your thing over there and it starts. And so go look for a little arrow to say start.
Okay. So when I've done other Keenan trainings, I've gone back.
You can go
Yeah,
back,
you can go back
even though
to
it's,
sections.
has a check mark, you're done now and you're going to the next.
I would.
Okay.
Sure,
I'm
if
gonna
I
try
went
it.
through the check mark part, or if I waited till I got to the end and before it triggered into the next section, I definitely remember looking at things multiple times.
And then also, I was thinking, okay, well, because it's going so quickly and I'm not able to take notes, I'm just gonna go through this whole thing and maybe I'm not gonna pass it. Am I gonna be able to take it again? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so let's adjourn to closed session.